Welcome to the channel. I am Oliver and this is Code Uncomplicated. Today we are going to look at setting up monitoring for our application with Prometheus and Grafana. Now what is Prometheus? Prometheus is an open source monitoring and alerting toolkit. Today we are going to be looking more at the monitoring part of it and not the alerting. Now Prometheus is built on this client server model. So the client is basically packages that Prometheus provides in various languages. So today we'll be using the Golang client. And with that, what we do is we instrument our application to collect these metrics, so generate the metrics. And then the server component is installed somewhere different from where your application is running. And the server is responsible to pull these metrics and store them. Then we move on to a visualization tool, and Grafana is a popular choice there. It lets us create these wonderful dashboards so that we can see what's happening in our application. So let's get right to it. So I have over here the Prometheus documentation, and the thing is it already has a guide on implementing this in a Golang application. So if we look through this, it provides us with a few things here. We got to install that, and here's a example. So it seems pretty simple. So what this is doing is it's giving us a HTTP handler. Okay, so I think that's something we're going to have to see what to do, because since we are using Go Fiber, we don't really have HTTP handlers. We have fast HTTP. So we need to see how to integrate that into our Go Fiber application. Okay, this seems simple. Handler, and then we'll get, so this should give us some default metrics. Okay, and then then I think we'll go ahead and create some custom metrics for ourselves. This is a counter. So Prometheus gives us quite a few types of metrics. We'll use something called a summary metric, which we can keep track of our response latencies of our API, and we'll gather it like in quantiles or percentiles, because that gives a much better view rather than the mean. So okay, then we're going to have to create a configuration for the Prometheus server. Okay, so let's get to this. I'll just go ahead and make these changes and let's see what it looks like. So I've gone ahead and installed the necessary dependencies that I need. And one thing that I had to do for the router was to install this adapter, which it's a kind of a Go Fiber middleware that converts an HTTP handler into fast HTTP handler that Go Fiber requires. But I'm still getting an exception over here on the server. So the last time we did the unit test changes, we are required to give a quote service implementation. So I'll go ahead and do that, and to make this interesting, what I'll do is I'll introduce a random delay in the quote service implementation. So that will give us some interesting metrics that we can look at later on. So let me just go ahead and do that. And over here I'm using something called air, which is continuously building my Golang project. So when I'm making changes, as soon as I save the file, it'll build the project, and if something is incorrect, I get to know over here. It's much faster than building the Docker container again and again. So something you should look at. So the changes are done, and let's see how it works. So local host, it's running on port 80. Yup, it's working. So by default, this is what the Golang client is giving us. It's just giving us all the information related to Golang. There's nothing, no custom metrics right now. This is also pretty useful. So next, let me go ahead and implement a custom metric and see how that works. So I'm here at the documentation of the Golang client, and it has a good example. So I'm just going to copy this. This is defining a summary vector, which basically keeps track of quantiles, and I give it a name, some help, and then which quantile. So I see we have the 0.5, which is the mean, the 90th, 0.9, and the 99th percentile. So let me just go ahead and copy this. There we have it, it's working. So if you see, this is our custom metric, and what I've done is I have given it labels. So it is recording this metric aggregated with method and the path. So that's why, since I just executed two different paths, one is the root path and one is the quote path. That is what you're seeing over here. Now let me go and change his name. Maybe I don't think I like this name too much, right? So RPC, it's not RPC. Oops, it just latency seconds. So there's another thing called a namespace where I should actually give it as API. API latency seconds. That seems like a good name. Let's go ahead and hit this again. Yup, API latency seconds. So now if you go to the Prometheus website, there are a bunch of naming conventions that under the best practices guides. Okay, so we just followed that naming convention over here, and the smallest unit of time measurement in Prometheus is seconds. So by convention, it is good to give underscore seconds, and this is important later when we are using Grafana to visualize all this. It makes our life easier if we put all this information into the name itself. So you can have multiple metrics and everything under the same namespace is basically grouped together. So that is what it's good to give a good name over here. Latency distribution seems good. Next, let's look at setting up the Prometheus server. So now our client code is done, our code is instrumented, we are recording metrics, and now we need the server to visualize this. So Prometheus itself gives us a very basic UI to visualize these metrics. So we'll first set that up, and then we'll go ahead and set up Grafana. So today what I'm going to do, I'm going to use Docker to set up both these services because both of them provide us with official Docker images. And what we need, so let's start with Prometheus. So for Prometheus, what we need is to create a configuration file. So I've gone ahead and created a very basic Prometheus configuration. I'm put the scrape interval, so I need to tell it where our target is and what the scraping interval is. So because I'm setting up everything in Docker over here, I'm going to identify my target by the container name, which is going to be API_test and running on port 80. So it depends. So normally when you do this, if you were doing this in AWS, you would probably give it either the DNS name or the IP address of your server. So in order to simplify service discovery between API application and Prometheus and Grafana, when I'm using Docker, I'm going to go ahead and create a network and make sure that all the containers are attached to the same network. So I can just refer to the container name and discover all of them. So let me go ahead and do that. So have your Prometheus is up and running, and right now we will not have any targets. So we've not yet deployed our API into the same container network, so that is why I cannot get it. So let me go and fix that. So while this is building, I'll go ahead and install Grafana as well via the Docker container. So just go to the official website and pick it up from there. I'm going to use Grafana Enterprise. I could use the open source. Let's just use the Enterprise. And exact same thing, I'll just run this, and the only extra step is I'll attach it to the network that we just created. This is building. I should have probably also run the Prometheus as a daemon. Let me go and do that. Let me just change it and run it as detached mode. Yeah, I knew that. So now I have both Prometheus and Grafana running, and let's see, my app is still building. Okay, let it build. And what should happen is once it's building and running, Prometheus should be able to discover it. Let me walk you through all the code changes that we did so far in the meantime. Let's start with main. So what I've done is I needed a simple code service, so that's what I did. I implemented that with a random delay, and then I created a call to register the Prometheus metrics. Now what had happened earlier when I was trying this out, I kind of included it in the server setup, but the way the Golang test run, it kept failing because it would register a duplicate. So it's much better to put it over here. And technically speaking, we do not want the metrics to run when we're running our unit test. We only need it when the actual server starts. So this seems like a good place for it. So let's go into this. That's what all that it does is registers that. Then we created a middleware, and that the middleware does is starts a timer, records the elapsed time, and then calls observe on our Prometheus metric over here. And this is our metric. So a summary metric is kind of a complicated metric. You also have histograms, which is, I would say, even more complicated and a little bit tricky on using it correctly. There are simpler metrics like gauges and counters, which you can also use. So I encourage you to check those out. And then what we did was, once we have our middleware, this is how we've called it. So at our API group level is where we've attached our middleware. So all the routes within that fall under this, we record the metrics for them. And what else? And then yeah, this was an important change over here, because the Prometheus Golang Prometheus client gives us an HTTP handler. So we just see the documentation, an HTTP handler, and our framework does not deal with an HTTP handler. We're using fast HTTP, so we kind of needed this adapter, and the adapter also comes official from GoFiber, so it's good to use that. And all that this handler does is convert from HTTP handler to the fast HTTP, something that GoFiber understands, and that's about it. So there's a bug in my make file which I need to fix. I'm going to fix it and push it to the initial branch, the main branch that I created, so that you can follow along with that tutorial as well. Let me go and do that. I forgot to attach it to the network. So the way to do that is a docker network connect, and I forget the command. I think it is okay. Help. So when in doubt, consult your documentation. Okay, docker network connect. What does it take? Takes the network and then the container. So docker network connect API test net, and my container is API test. Yep. Yes. So now we have everything running, and inspect. So if I see my API is running in, where is it? The test net, and Prometheus is also running in the test net. So if I go back to my Prometheus, where is it? Yep, now it finds it, it's up. So let me just show you. This is the very basic UI that Prometheus provides, so I can easily go and look at my metrics here. So let's see the custom one that we created, API underscore. Oh yeah, it won't show because we've not hit anything, right? So now it's on, I think, 8585. Oh, it's not 8585. What did we run it on? 9000. So few calls to quote. Let's do a few calls to here as well. Now, yep, it shows API in seconds and execute. So let us see in graph. Okay, if I request decrease the time, okay, not bad. Let's go and look at what Grafana gives us. So Grafana default port is 3000. The default username is admin. Okay, skip, we don't want to change that for now. And the first thing we need to do in Grafana is set up a data source, and in our case the data source is going to be Prometheus. So we'll go here, data sources, add Prometheus, and now it's going to be referred to by its name, Prometheus. That's the port because we are in Docker, and yeah, it's working. Now I'll go ahead and create a dashboard. So go here and then let us look at our metrics. Same thing, it shows up. Now Grafana lets us do a lot of filtering. So suppose we wanted to, we are only interested in the quote service and the 90th percentile. Okay, I can do just that. Use query and that's what it shows up. So this time interval is too large. So let me get it to 5 minutes. Yeah, so that's what it's looking. Let's execute a couple of more times. That's about enough. Give it a while for the Prometheus server to scrape the metrics, and we can also set an auto refresh here. See, every 5 seconds. Let's see what happens. Should we wait 5 seconds? Yeah, there it is. You see some change. So that's nice. So you might be wondering now, what about all those other metrics that the Golang client gave us out of the box? We can go ahead and graph those as well individually, or we can use a shortcut. So if we search on the Grafana website, we have a lot of dashboards. 3 dashboards that we can just import. So let's have a look at that. Did I go to the right place? Yes. So Golang. This one is pretty popular, 80,000 downloads. So I can either download the JSON or I can just copy this ID. Let's start with the ID and I'll say import. Let's save this. I'll call it custom metric. And here I'll put the ID and say load. It finds it, give it the data source, import. And there you have it. So these were all the default metrics that the Go client was giving us, and we'll go ahead and add our own metric here again. So there, 3 seconds. Let's say I only need quote and 90th. Okay, 90th. Let's say 90th and the mean. No, I don't think I did that right. Huh. 3 seconds. Quote 90th mean. I have to say use query. Okay. Again, we're going to customize this legend. So what I want is just the part. Right, make it look a bit better. And apply. Take the window down, say let's go to 15 minutes. There. So that was it. I hope you found this useful. Setting up monitoring with Prometheus and Grafana. Give it a like, give it a subscribe. See you in the next one. Thank you.